morning, actually. Wow. It never does that right away. We'll take it. Okay, everyone ready?
Okay. Welcome to Coffee and History, a conversation with Alabama Heritage. We are your hosts. I'm Rebecca Mender.
And I'm Susan Reynolds.
And I'm Caroline Bezeredi.
Today we are on the road in Fairhope, Alabama at the Alabama Historical Association's annual conference. Join us as we sit down with some of the most fascinating folks in the state of Alabama and the historical community as we bring you the stories of Alabama that educate, inspire, and entertain. We want to thank the good folks at Coastal Alabama Community College for allowing us to record in their podcast room, and a special thanks to Mandy, Bezeredi, and Christi Parent. They have been such wonderful hosts in this community, so thank you for that. But before we dive into today's conversation, let's kick things off with our segment called Did You Know? And this is usually an interesting fact about the state of Alabama. A lot of these facts we pull from the Encyclopedia of Alabama, so you can visit them at encyclopediaofalabama.org. And it's a fun fact that we might know, you listeners may not know, you might know.
Yeah.
But I think our guest is going to know this one today,
Our
Susan.
guest will know, and readers of the magazine may very well know this. So, listeners, did you know the old Federal Road runs through Alabama?
I knew that.
I knew that too.
That's
Learning all about it, actually.
So around 1805, 1806, under President Thomas Jefferson, the road became a crucial mail and pioneer route, running basically from Georgia through the Creek Nation in Alabama into the Mississippi Territory. Of course, Alabama wasn't a state then,
Right.
but we would become one about 10, 12 years later. So the road made possible, amongst other things, westward migration, military movement, and the eventual settlement in the Old Southwest.
Nice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do believe that our guest will probably talk a little bit more
Just a
about
little.
that. So, because I just can't imagine what it was like to travel on a road that early in the 1800s, or what the
Or the process of even getting the road going.
yeah,
That's just
it's like
mind-boggling to me.
something starting something brand new. It's always going to be a challenge. So, but today's guest is an expert on the Old Federal Road, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that actually even is for our listeners who are not familiar. She's also an archaeologist and historian. She's worked for the Alabama Department of Archives and History. She's conducted an archaeological survey of the Old Federal Road in Alabama for the Alabama Department of Transportation, and she's co-authored a book called The Old Federal Road in Alabama, an illustrated guide, with our good friend Greg Wazelkoff. We love Greg. She's also a second-generation Army veteran, and she served as an Army nurse from 1999 to 2004, so thank you for your service. Please welcome to Coffee and History Podcast, Raven Christopher!
Yay!
Give you a big clap.
We're so glad to have you here today. Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, for myself and for our listeners, could you share a little bit more about what the Old Federal Road is and how it came to be formed in Alabama?
Sure. So in the early 1800s, there was a need to quicken communication between New Orleans and Washington, D.C. And so the previous route went through the Tennessee mountains, and it took a long time, and it was treacherous. And so they identified a faster route, but unfortunately that went through the Creek Nation and what became the state of Alabama. And so when it became a mail path in 1805, it shortened the road, or shortened that trail by hundreds and hundreds of, I think, like 500 miles or so. And so, but it is interesting when you bring up, like, how did it would have been difficult to begin that road. And the important thing to remember is that this area was part of the Creek Nation, and for thousands of years before that, indigenous people lived here. And so most of the Federal Road was formed from existing Indian paths.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they just, I would say through most of it, they just followed that.
Yeah. And so a pathway would have been just probably, I don't know, maybe 3 feet wide or something like that. And so this actual Federal Road, they try to make it as big as, how much bigger would that have been?
And I would say when it started, it was still that kind of mail path, horse traffic, some families, some wagons coming through. But really during the Creek War is what facilitated the enlargement of it. So at that point, they had to make it wider to accommodate the movement of troops and materials for the military.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like, because I read a lot of Sarah Gale's diaries, and the portion where she's talking about when she was young and she was coming through this area, and I'm not a survivor. I just kill me in the first class. You know, I'm that person. So I know I wouldn't have made it through all that, and I find that part of history to be so fascinating, because the bravery you had to have to actually take on those kinds of adventures. So yeah, that's fascinating. Well,
Definitely.
You were talking about, you know, the Creek territory and the Creek Nation and everything. So we know a little bit about the white settler experiences in this days of traveling through there, like with Sarah Gale's diary, for example. But what was the Native American response to all of this? How did they feel? I can imagine that would have been a very sort of interesting negotiation. And how did the government deal with that?
It was, you know, and it was such a complicated time, because at that time the Creek Nation was experiencing a divide.
Right.
And so you had a faction that were interested in remaining traditional to their traditional life ways, and were not interested in the United States coming into their land. Yeah, but then you had other people that were interested, and a lot of these people, you know, like Samuel Moniac, they were profiting from this as well. You know, so they had a good relationship with the United States, and they were able to have houses of entertainment along the way, and profit from those.
Wow.
And so, and the law required them every 14 miles or so, because that was about the amount that a car
wanted to buy one house.
Yeah, I'm a little curious.
That could be taken many ways.
Purely a tavern. A
tavern,
a stage stops and being hungry.
Okay.
As far as that's what the records say.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
I
Was
just-
the trading post also part of that route? Like, I know that there were trading posts along the way, some of them run by Native people as well. So I just wondered if that was also along that route.
You know, we did actually look at a lot of the trading posts.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of these were areas that were already, where they put these, you know, these tavern stops, were areas that were kind of already established.
Okay.
As someone already living there.
Wow. Interesting. So I just have to go back to asking, you know, when they were expanding and creating this road, what was the process? Like, did they have to pull trees, like use dirt? What exactly did they do?
Yeah, I think just mainly a lot of that, pulling trees, and there's, especially down in this area, I think it was so different because the northwest side or northeast side is so different from the southern section.
Right.
So there's so much mud, and you read about all the you know, going over the different drainages, and that they would have to lay down like corduroy roads where they lay down timbers, and then eventually just set up ferry systems, which a lot of those in the Creek Nation area were run by the Creek Indians.
Okay.
And then in the northern or northeastern part in Macon and Russell counties, they were typically just clearing the path. Yeah, trees mainly.
Did they use Native Americans to help build it?
I am not sure. Not that I know of. I mean, I knew that from what I remember, it was a lot of the labor was from the military in during the War of 1812 and the Creek War.
So while they were off at war, they were also working to expand this road.
Because it became such a pivotal place for battles.
Getting supplies.
So that
and
means
things
they
like
were
that.
very multi-talented. That's
So it sounds like they could have all worked for Alabama Heritage.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I was like, that's some talent right there. Thank you for
hard work.
Thank you for elaborating on that.
Well, I mean, I was just wondering because it's like, you know, you come in and you take their, you know, taking part of their territory. That's part of the negotiation is like, here you are, we're going to do this, you know, so you can get on board and help us with it. And because it would have been a benefit for them as well, you know, if they could have gotten more supplies, you know, to the natives as well. So that's why I was curious if they had any type of involvement in, you know, recruiting and the building of it. So.
And they could have, and just not that I haven't read into
Not documented that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do know this interesting fact about you, Raven, is that you did actually walk the federal road. So I want you to clarify if I'm wrong, because what I heard is you went from the starting point to the ending point and walked the entire thing. So if that's just a rumor and a legend and a myth,
The legends of Raven.
the myth of Raven, I want to leave it
I like
at that because it's so romanticized by now, because this happened a long time ago.
Mhm.
So give us the actual facts.
no, I walked every foot barefoot.
I was barefoot and pregnant, and it was out uphill in the snow.
Your poor feet.
Mosquitoes.
Your poor feet.
Okay, so what's the real truth?
I drove most of it.
Okay.
And I will say that it wasn't so much from point A to point B, which is how I think people just automatically think in their head. But, it went through 10 counties in the state of Alabama, about 250 miles. And so for this process, and this was one of my favorite projects, and this was actually the first project that I had ever worked on with Greg, like so directly, and that included more than just archaeology. Previous to this, I had just done archaeology.
And what year was this? When were y'all
This
working
was
on
it started in 2009. So the grant from the Department of Transportation was 2009 to 2011.
Oh, so wow.
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
Or more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of my favorite parts about it was that we met with each of the 10 counties that the road went through, and we set up county meetings with the historical societies, and generally they would recruit people that they knew whose family were connected to it and who knew where pieces were in the woods. And so then we'd all have a meeting, and then we'd all go out into the woods together, and I'd have my GPS, and I would, walk these different places they showed us and GPS it. And then that's how we kind of put together that with the historical sources, how we put together where this route was.
And is that something that's accessible online that people can
It
go and
is.
see?
It is. Through the book, University of Alabama Press, which Dr. Catherine Braun was also a co-author on. And I would say her and Dr. Greg Oswald were the
They're the real
They're the real deal. I help with logistics. And so the book is on their website, and then there is a link to go to an interactive map that follows the book. So
So that website is uapress.ua.edu, and we can just search for it. Yeah. So I was wondering though, I've also heard as part of this legend that parts of the road are really not accessible anymore. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And what percentage of the road can you still travel?
That's a great question.
And why are they not accessible, I guess, is what I want to know next.
And that was one of the more challenging parts of the road, is that, and when I really honed my mapping, my GIS skills, is that we have the line of the road that we took from different sources, and then we would, as we ground truthed it, as we went out and looked, then we would kind of change that path. And as I was making that file, I would identify whether it was on public land or private land, whether it was paved, unpaved, trail, nothing, And so I just don't really remember on that website, but that's how we can tell what percentage is paved and accessible.
Yeah.
And so there are sections, especially in the 1930s when they came through and started paving roads.
Yes.
The early trails took the high road, and there was things that they could do with paving roads that they couldn't do before. And so sometimes you lose some of those sections as they straighten roads out. And so that is where we really were able to find these like entrenched areas of old road beds, were mainly when they
so you can actually see like in certain parts maybe the indentation.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
I just
What
think
is that like? What does it look like?
It looks like you're just in the middle of, we used to have these clay pits we had when we were growing up, and they were just like these big walls of red clay, and that's kind of, especially in Macon County, I think it was Macon and Russell County over there were some areas that just were really entrenched.
I think it's just great that it was such a huge community project too, that you were able to meet with people who actually live there in each county of the state, and then get them more involved and engaged, because there's probably a lot of people in those communities who learned from your project going, I had no idea this was even in my backyard, so that's really
Were they
amazing.
pretty receptive, the people with private land?
Oh yes, well mostly I would say,
yeah.
because most of those people, their families had lived there for generations, and so that was one of the other like big takeaways from that project for me, was because my dad was in the military, and so we moved around every 2 to 3 years, and so I didn't really have that sense of place, like where and so that was the first project that really showed me just how passionate people are about their sense of place and their ancestors. Yeah. And so most of the people that we worked with, their ancestors had come to Alabama on the Federal Road. And so it was, I would say they all knew about it way more about it than I will ever. Right. And I would say that was pretty consistent through every county. That's awesome.
That's just incredible. So to segue off of the Federal Road, I want to talk about your archaeological side of things. Okay. So I saw that you have done some archaeological excavations at Fort Mims. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. And that is also just an interesting thing with the Federal Road, is because the Federal Road ends or begins, whatever, at Fort Mims, essentially. They would take...
And let's tell our listeners where Fort Mims is.
In Baldwin County, Alabama. And so it's... obviously.
Well, we have listeners in we have several countries. I mean, it's funny because our podcast, Caroline was telling us, we're in almost every state in the United States, and we're in how many countries?
As of the other day, it was 28 countries.
28 countries.
But compared to 6 weeks ago, that was 13 countries. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure by the time this airs, there will be a few more countries. But
so we like to do some definitions to make sure our listeners and our viewers know exactly what we're talking about. So Baldwin County.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very bottom of Alabama.
Okay, so let's talk about the archaeological excavations that you did.
Okay, and so do we want to just give a little bit about Fort Mims?
Sure.
Yeah, because that was such a pivotal site.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it was where people on the Federal Road would then board a ferry and go to Fort Stoddard and then continue on to the Mississippi Territory. And so it was also the location of Samuel Mims' fortified homestead. And because in the early 1800s, there was some, as they settled, the Native Americans that were there were not, happy about that. And so there was definitely some tension growing. And so it became the location of one of the most significant attacks battles during the Creek War. And so a faction of the Creek Indians came and attacked the Samuel Mims fortification. And, it ended up 250, 300 people dead. And it was just a really turning point, because at that point, the United States saw how formidable of a opponent the Creek Nation was, and that that's when they came in, and it ended up leading to many other battles that ended with the battle at Horseshoe Bend and the Creek Nation losing most of their land. And so it's important in that way. And then so it was also one of the first places that I ever excavated, like full on excavated, and it was amazing because you would come down to an area, come down to a level that was all burned. Everything all the artifacts that you touched, that you found, coffee cups that were crushed, anything, it was all burned. And so having that connection to history is just, knowing what happened there, and then being able to be on that land at that space it was really powerful.
Chills.
I know, it was so powerful.
What exactly were you researching during these excavations?
Well, that excavation I was in field school. So Dr. Greg Wazakoff, that was one of his major research projects. And so we were looking for the outline of the fort to actually figure out. We know the general area of the fort, and we have some features, but we were really hoping to be able to identify the exact location of the fort walls. Because then when people come in, when there are going to be interpretive structures, we didn't want to have those, or hurt the existing material.
The foundation.
Thing. Yeah. And they always want to kind of build a little box.
Of course. Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Yeah. And how long were you doing that for?
Well, I took 2 years of field school, but 2 semesters of field school. And so, but then, I went back and forth even as an employee. I'd go back later on and help with field schools. And so I can't really say how many years, because it was many. But,
and were you successful? Have you found all the exterior?
I am not sure if they found all of it, but a good portion of it. Right. I think enough to,
I know in Tuscaloosa, when we, uncovered the ruins of the state capitol, it was in Tuscaloosa at one point. And that was just one of the most amazing things. And people just absolutely love that. So we have this Capitol Park downtown, and so now it's become a tourist attraction. And you'll see people taking prom pictures and wedding pictures and things like that all the time.
Baby photos were done there. I love that part.
But it's just, you just know as a community, that's something that's amazing when you can actually, find the exterior walls, and even if it's just, a little bit of rock here and there, formation, but then knowing that's what the structure was, and then getting an aerial view of it. So I'm assuming we've got an aerial view of Fort Mims now that defines what that actual exterior looks like. Yeah, it's very cool.
It is
really cool.
And they're doing a great job. They've recreated some of the fort, like one of the not a bastion, that's a different fort. Like
It's all good.
There's something there, but they are recreating it, and so it's a great place to go ahead, to go visit. It's beautiful, and you can learn a lot of history.
That's cool.
So cool.
Well, so I know your father was in the military, and I also know that you are too. And so the way I found out about your military experience was in a post that Justin Rutter shared from the Alabama Department of Archives and History. I think it was shortly after we became friends on Facebook. And I think you were in Kosovo in that photo. Is there anything you want to talk about with that experience, or just the experience of being an Army nurse and how that worked?
Yeah, no, it was fascinating. It was, my father was in the military, and then my brother was in the military, so right after high school.
For all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
It just seemed like the thing to do, because I didn't want to, I find it hard to believe that many people can go right out of high school and go into college and be successful. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that. Like, and so I was very thankful to have that experience. So I did, was able to go to Kosovo, and it was such an interesting experience because the division between the people there was just so strong, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. And so we tried to bring those two groups, the Albanians and the Serbians, together. And so we had, I worked at the hospital there, and we had to have interpreters from both ethnic backgrounds, in there, and they refused to be around each other. It was just a dynamic that I was not used to, and so it was a real learning experience.
Yeah, I thought that was really eye-opening.
How did you go from being an Army nurse to then going into field work? I've got to know, because that's just that's two lives, basically.
It is. And so when I spent 4 years in the military, I got out, I came back here to be close to my family, and I went to the University of South Alabama to go on to get my RN. I was a licensed practical nurse in the Army, and I wanted to get a degree. And so as I was taking it, I took anthropology classes, and I had an amazing instructor, Dr. Moberg. Shout out to him, the anthropologist. He's wild and fun, and he really just got my attention. And then I went over and I met Dr. Greg Wazakoff and Dr. Phil Carr at the Center for Archaeological Studies, and I was hooked from then. Then I switched my major, and I started working as a student worker, and then once I graduated, I stayed on full time, and then I came back there after many years of not being there. And so,
but if someone was to fall and be injured, you could help take care of them, and in the beginning, make sure that splinted or something.
I was like, I could probably splint it.
Okay. Taking her with us.
Okay, good to know, because we seem to all be a little clumsy on our team. So it's true. But we have our splint contact. I mean, I just can't imagine what the process is like with your whole conceptual concept of a time. Because, if you think about being in Kosovo and being a nurse and how high stakes it was and high energy and all of that, and then you switch to become, this archaeologist where basically it takes decades. You're digging a hole, looking for something. So how did you manage going from this high-paced kind of, intense work as a nurse in the military to becoming an archaeologist where everything's a much slower pace?
It is. I think I got older and appreciated the slower pace.
Okay.
Yes. And because I did archaeology, for about 8 years at the university, and then I during that time I started working towards my master's in history, because I realized that physically it was a very demanding job, and I did not want to necessarily do that for the long term. And so, it was also interesting because I got such a good experience with historical research on the Old Federal Road project. And so it became clear that that's kind of a path I wanted to take.
Yeah, definitely.
And also with GIS, incorporating GIS and historical research and archaeology just became a passion because of the Federal Road project.
Right.
And so then it led me into lots of different paths.
Definitely.
You've lived like 4 different lives,
I mean,
basically. That's incredible.
I mean,
That's
to me,
exciting.
I feel like it seems like a retirement job. It's like something that you can, much slower pace, something that you can enjoy and appreciate. Take the time. You have the, like you said, the maturity level to appreciate it as well.
I can't
so.
get down in the dirt in retirement.
Well-
I'm going to be falling all over the place. It's not going to be healthy for anybody.
I'll just promote what y'all are doing because I'm also not allowed to be
I
out in
mean,
nature.
Well, that's what I plan to do when I retire. I'm gonna be gardening, so that's a little
Yeah.
bit different. But you never know what you're gonna dig up in your yard. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
my house was built in 1960, so it's like you never know what land was underneath there. And I actually have found it is funny when you plant a garden in your own yard and then you dig up and you found I found little broken pieces of like a coffee cup or a plate or something. And I thought, gosh, I wonder if this is something important or historic. And I held on to it for, I don't know, just a few months, and then I ended up throwing it away. And we were talking to another guest about that and how we had Anna Mulligan here, and she was talking about how people will bring things that they find in their farmland or their yards, and they'll bring it to them to assess. And they won't price it or anything, but they'll say, no, that's a beautiful rock you have. And my husband did the same thing. He found this beautiful rock, and he was like, I wonder if this came from space, or what is this kind of rock? And it's like, honey, I don't know. Maybe you should just take it to the university and ask the people in, the archaeology department or somewhere in, geology department. They might be able to identify it for you. And so it's still sitting in our kitchen. So on a shelf, so maybe one day.
You can appreciate a pretty rock.
I mean, it's a beautiful rock,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's really anything. He's like, I've never seen anything like it. It's got to be from, outer space. Maybe it's a moon rock.
Where do you live?
In Tuscaloosa.
Well, in Wetumpka.
Yeah,
from the
exactly.
crater there.
Well, that's
There are
right.
some interesting
Well,
rocks.
I mean, and we did have the lady who had the meteor fall on her, literally, and she used it as the doorstop until she took it to the university and decided I could have somebody look at this.
But just think about the fact that in a few generations they're going to be looking at our stuff and wondering, and that just makes me excited.
Yeah, they're going to see plasticware.
Yes.
And they're going to wonder, what is that? What did they use it for? So there'll be lots of plastics that'll still be around.
Well, or you'll find Rebecca's garden, the remnants of Rebecca's garden.
I just want to talk about Catherine Braun. I just want to be like her. She's always posted beautiful pictures of her garden.
Exactly.
It's like, when I grow up, I want to be Catherine Braun.
I could see that. So Raven, you, Greg, and Catherine Ron co-authored the Federal Road Book together. Did you work together on other sites or other projects, or just they're both favorite authors of ours, so we love when we get to talk about them too.
Yes, they are definitely two of my favorite people, and this project definitely brought us closer together. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Catherine is her ability to just really bring the audience in. She always, in her presentations, would always include, readings from diaries or these firsthand accounts of being on the Federal Road. And she was just really able to just bring the audience into that experience. And I just learned a lot from her during that time.
Yeah.
And so, what was the other question?
And Greg.
And
Well,
Greg,
what did y'all work on other projects
other
together?
projects, that was
Yeah.
it. We did, one of the big projects that followed the Federal Road Project was a battlefield grant project. And so we were looking for Creek War battle sites, including Holy Ground and a handful of others. And so we definitely consulted with Catherine for those as well.
Nice.
So that's just incredible that you get to know so many people, and you're with. I'm a little jealous and starstruck. I think. Just saying. I want to be you when I grow up. I think now.
Just a little in awe.
Yeah.
And it all stemmed from this project, which is so funny because this was one of my first big projects. It was 16 years ago, and it's still one of the main things that I talk to people about.
Yeah.
But you are teaching people about it, and that's what we need because I learned about it through you.
And it connects so many people to the state.
Yes.
Definitely.
So I want to ask you now, in our next segment, it's called Before You Go. So this segment is where we just ask you some few questions just to get to know you a little bit better and your opinions on certain things. Like, I'm going to ask you right now, because this is not on my list to ask you, but, does pineapple belong on a pizza?
100%.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it too, and I don't know why people don't like it. I think it's because they don't like the thought of tomato with pineapple.
Yeah.
But there's
Stop ruining
something.
my pizza.
I'm going to tell you. Here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So there was this Mexican restaurant that used to be on the Strip in Tuscaloosa. We always went there on when we had margarita night. And our favorite bartender, he had just come back from Mexico, and he had some interesting things to drink that were not on the menu. And he was sitting at the bar, and he was eating watermelon with hot sauce. And so he would put hot sauce on the watermelon. I was like, what in the world? And so he said, you don't know until you try it. And so I tried it, and I thought, oh my God, that was amazing. And so now anytime I eat watermelon, I want to put hot sauce on it. I would try it. So to me, if you can put hot sauce on watermelon, you can put pineapple on the pizza.
You can put pineapple on a pizza. There are people who don't believe it.
Caroline just doesn't want it on her.
No, so y'all can share it. I'll eat my own.
It's definitely one of the biggest divisions in the pizza.
It really is a
world.
division for everybody. We've asked this question before.
And we have two of us are like, no, it doesn't belong on there.
I
And then
know.
Rebecca.
I'm outranked. So thank you for Okay. Thank you for being my person.
Well, let's
All right.
stick with a little bit more food then. What food do you think best represents Alabama? This is a little harder.
Yes.
Food. I have some
Okra.
Okra.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
When
like
I
it.
think of okra, I think of the Fighting Okras, which is an HBCU in Mississippi.
There you go.
It's the Fighting Okras.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, are you more of a cat person or a dog person?
Dog person.
Okay, do you have a dog?
I have two.
Okay, what kind and what are their names?
Yeah, we need to know all about
Oh
it.
gosh. So one is his name is Rowdy, and he is 100% Rowdy. He was adopted through a pet adoption event,
Nice.
which was brilliant because it was a dog park at a bar, and so
That is
you
the
go
best.
there, they give you a drink, and then you watch all these dogs play, and
You have to take one.
me and my mom
Yeah.
goes left there
Yes,
with
of
dogs.
course. That's the way it works.
And he's very rowdy. He is I can't think of the name right now, but a hunting-ish dog.
Yeah.
He's just a good boy.
Yes, and he's the most affectionate. He has to touch you at all times. Is what his thing is. And then my other is Jolene, and
I have a
You have a
Jolene,
Jolene?
but not as an animal. My car's named Jolene. Sorry, no one ever names things Jolene.
she was just so beautiful.
And Dolly would be so proud.
Yes, she
That's
would.
exactly why.
My kids actually know that song because of Jolene.
Yeah.
Sing it. And so, and yeah.
Jolene, Jolene, Jolene.
Okay, what was your first job?
My first job was the Dippin' Dots girl at Kentucky Kingdom in the amusement park.
There you
Nice.
go.
Love
There
it.
you go.
Fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is one skill that everyone should have?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so many these
So
days.
many.
Well, you can pick 17,
Okay.
but then only tell us one.
Give us your top ones.
Top skill, being able to communicate effectively.
We did ask this of Catherine Vaughn too. So
What did she say?
I'm going to recommend everybody go back and listen to her podcast. And you'll know.
We were a lot younger then. Do you collect anything? Are you a keeper of items?
Oh goodness, not really. But I have found myself, for my kids, we have a dead bug collection, and I have found myself very interested in helping them build their dead bug collection, and so it's become a thing we all are very into trying to expand that. And so the key is that it can't be squished; it has to
Right.
be found in the wild like that already.
Uh-huh.
And it's become kind of a fascinating
How big is the
collection.
collection?
It's probably 20 or 30, maybe. I mean, I had a like a divider, plastic
Yeah.
divider container that now is expanded, so I need to get another one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I really like
Mhm.
that.
So, if you could have a lifetime supply of anything, what would it be?
Chocolate.
Oh,
Hey.
girl, you are on my side. We are the same person.
All chocolate.
All chocolate. You know, I used to be a chocolate snob. I love dark chocolate.
Me too.
But now, I just like it all. I just like everything.
Okay.
I love it all.
So I prefer dark chocolate because it's really good with red wine.
Mm,
But
yes.
my husband prefers white chocolate, and I said, "Honey, that's not even chocolate.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, it's
And
not."
I didn't even think about that in my head. Like,
Yeah.
white chocolate didn't even, I just,
No.
yeah, not really.
No, not at all.
Life's too short to discriminate on chocolate.
Well,
You
that's
just have to
true.
eat.
That is-
It's so good.
Well, my mom was
Yeah.
always a milk chocolate person,
Yeah.
unless she was baking, and then she used semi-sweet.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go dark chocolate because I think it's supposed to be healthier. So
Yeah.
we're
We'll
gonna
take
we're
it.
gonna
It
say
is chocolate.
Mhm.
Let's just enjoy it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care if you did that study, if it was the Chocolate Association of the World, you know, let's take
chocolate's
Yeah.
chocolate. We'll take it.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
anyone wants to send us chocolate for this podcast,
Mhm.
you're more than welcome to do that.
University of South Alabama.
University of Alabama.
Maybe we should have been chocolate in
Chocolate
history.
exchange.
So, last question. What is your favorite comfort show or movie? And you can have a couple of, okay? Because I've got 3.
Okay. I will say I don't watch movies because I lack the ability to stay awake for that long if I'm sitting. I just can't do it. I can watch 7 hours of a show if I need to.
Because you can stop and
Mhm.
start and walk away.
Right.
Yeah, but I just can't. I fell asleep while watching like multiple movies in the movie theater, like big action scenes, and I just pass out.
Because you're an archaeologist and a former nurse and you're exhausted.
I am. That's
Yeah, you're just tired. You need a nap.
Mhm. I can't sit
Well,
down for
movie
that long.
theaters also, a lot of them have those recliners
Mhm.
and they've got, heated seats and stuff, and they bring the food and drinks to you. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's a great place to take a nap.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Okay, but your shows.
But so my new show that I've watched, not only because I have 2 young children who dominate the television, but luckily we got the flu, so we were out for a few weeks.
Luckily, we got the flu.
Sometimes, sickness does work in your favor sometimes when you want to watch your TV. I get it.
And so I started binge watching The Traitors, and I have found that it's fantastic.
need
It's
to
a
watch
good,
that
it's a
show.
good way to just let your mind loose.
I just started that actually, so
Super fun. It's
Yeah.
it's wild.
It
You
is.
have to just take it for what it is.
I
Don't take
love
it
it.
seriously. Just take it for pure mind-numbing
See, my
entertainment.
problem is I like to watch these like home and garden shows,
Mhm.
remodeling shows.
Mhm.
And so if I'm ever homesick, then that's what I'm doing is I'm watching those shows. But then I can't sit still because I keep thinking, oh, I need to reorganize my bathroom closet, or I should go paint that wall in the den that I've been thinking about painting. Because you watch these shows and they get you motivated to do things around your house. So the worst thing for me when I'm sick is to be home and watch those kind of home and garden
Right.
shows or remodeling shows, because then it gets me up and I need to be resting.
you can renovate my house then. Okay?
I would love to. I would do anybody's house.
I'm like one of those, stereotypes that watches the murder and crime documentaries.
Oh, well, those I do too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my comfort shows are
I shouldn't be doing that.
my comfort shows are definitely medical dramas and death and destruction apparently.
Well,
But
a lot of people like to watch these murder or mystery shows just to relax. And,
it grounds me. I think like it
Ooh,
just
but
makes
how
me
sick
feel like
is
I can't
that?
be.
well, maybe it's because we're seeing that our life's not so bad after all.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
As the medical marvel that I am, it reminds me that there are worse things in the world that I haven't found yet. So,
Oh, I'm going to ask you real quick what your thoughts about the new show, The Pit, that has been considered more. You've never worked in an ER, so you don't, but have you seen the show?
I have not. What's it called?
The Pit with
Yeah.
Noah Wiley,
From-
who used
from
to be in
ER.
ER.
Mhm.
and he just got his Hollywood star fame.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did.
He didn't invite me. So,
You're
yeah.
his biggest fan.
One of them. Well, listen, Raven, this has been so much fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast, and we hope you did too.
I did. Thank you so much.
It was
Yeah.
so much fun.
All right, we want to thank our guest, Raven Christopher, for being on Coffee and History, a conversation with Alabama Heritage. You can find our podcast wherever you listen, and you can also watch us on our YouTube channel where we have unedited videos. Be sure to follow us, like us, and give us a rating or send us a comment. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget that if you want to subscribe to our print magazine, you can log on to alabamaheritage.com.
And it makes some cool great gift.
Yes,
you
it
were gonna
makes
do
a
that.
fantastic gift.
Like I have
Look,
to
you buy it once and it lasts an entire year.
It's the best gift
So,
for family and
but
friends.
until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, but I need more coffee. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You did wonderful.